we're going to get started. Hello. We're going to be talking about technical SEO, and I wanted to talk about this for a while. It's the basics, the bullshit, and the future. Because whenever I talk to developers about SEO, there are different reactions. Number one is, I have no clue what this is. I'm either scared or I'm going to find out all about it. Or then there's the other one, oh yeah, I already know how to do this. I'm going to put some keywords somewhere and we're good. We'll call it a day. It's a bit more complicated than that. So, hi, my name is Myriam, and I'm here today because I love talking about SEO and how we can make it better. If you have any questions after this presentation, and I don't mean necessarily questions about my presentation, but questions about SEO in general, just hit me up on Twitter. I usually answer rather fast. And if I don't have the answer, I'll give you a link to either the documentation or some hypothetical, like conspiracy theory website that talks about how Google is ranking things. They happen a lot. So let's dive in. What is SEO, and more importantly, why should you care about it? Well, if we think about it in terms of Google, you can see that Google is actually now a verb. I mean, it is one of the first things that we do about someone or something. We Google them. Like, I've had people Google me live in front of my face before they decided to say something. It's not super enjoyable. I don't know how to react to that, but it's a reality. Like, we're all going to stalk each other online, and we usually do it through Google. There's a very good reason for that. It's because it gives you answers. It shows you a lot of things that most people will keep buried. So, I'm like a regular human being. I ask myself a lot of questions, and one of them was, what is SEO, really, when we think about it? So Google kind of nailed it. Their algorithm is pretty good. They will show you answers, and they explain to you that it's something that you invest in, something that you do. However, it's still not perfect. As you can tell, according to Google, SEO peaked in terms of use in the population between 1850 and 1900. So while I do trust Google, I don't trust them for everything. The reason why is because I know it's flawed and because there's people like me that will mess with it. So how can we define SEO in tangible terms? Very, very easy. Search engine optimization encompasses all activities that you are going to undertake to give visibility to your website or content or whatever else. And whenever people talk to me about SEO, they only think about Google. Search engine optimization happens wherever you have an algorithm that will be ranking results. Okay, so that means Pinterest, yeah, I can optimize for that. The App Store, oh yeah. LinkedIn, happened. So, if we concentrate on Google itself, I just wanted to show you what a Google search result page can look like. So I asked myself a very important question. How old is Betty White? Why is this important? Because the woman is a treasure, and I want to know how much time I have with her. And I'm afraid that it may be running out. It won't be 50 years. But if we look at it from a positive point of view and a UX point of view, I am asking a question. Google is actually giving me the answer. And if you are paying attention to this conference, you will notice that Betty White is 95 and not 94 because this is an old screenshot. But beyond this, you have a card that gives you the answer. The card tells you, hey, you know what? Google was smart enough to evaluate other people that are related to this actress. So they will give you these people, because sometimes you may confuse Betty White for Angela Lansbury. I don't know how you would do that, but it happens. You also have machine learning that will give you other questions that people ask in relation to that. And then all the way at the bottom, you have the first result, the first real text result that shows up. So you can have really, really interesting and rich content. The cards, the machine learning that will show you questions, then you have the real results, and then you actually have what is called a knowledge graph, which is Google going around and picking semantically anything that is related to this woman and compressing it into one card. So this relies on Wikipedia, great, but it also has Betty White's profiles, and this didn't happen here by magic. Developers made this happen by enriching the code in her website, saying, hey, these things should be displayed. And then you have movies, and the movies are not even ordered by chronology. Google is evaluating the ones that are most popular on Google to show them to you. So when you're thinking about SEO, going, you know what, it's easy. I'll stack in a few keywords. We'll make sure they can be indexed. No, there's a lot of competition for information. It's not just about websites. The search engine can actually extract information and display it differently. So let's get started with the basics now that I showed you what it looks like. There's 3 pillars. And if you were in one of the rooms yesterday, you may have noticed I actually intervened saying, hey, I do SEO, and somebody went, yeah, you are pretty much doing magic with content, aren't you? Not exactly. My specialty is actually code. I troll code for a living. So you have 3 pillars. You have code, content, and links. Do you really care about the content? Well, look at this. Actually, you should care because your code impacts it. Then you have code. That's the bulk of what we're going to talk about. And links is something that is a bit dirty that we like to play with, and I can talk to you about that after. So, key concepts. You can have the best design in the world and the best content. If your code sucks, it won't be happening. You will not get visibility. It's the same thing with content. You can have a website that is gorgeous, actually fully functional, accessible in terms of color, in terms of font, but if your content is not there, then it's an experience. So it's great if you have viral marketing, go for it, have fun. But if you actually want to give it visibility in the long term and you don't have any content, you're not going to rank. Or you may rank using various techniques for 2 weeks and then get penalized. So it's a very, very important aspect. When people give you, as a front-end developer, usually the task of optimize this for SEO, feel free to say, okay, I can do this, but you're going to have content issues. Like, that's not my job, but just so you know, it's going to impact it. And then you have links. Links, Google has tried to get rid of them for a long time because people abuse them. Why? Because it's a popularity contest. It's the word of mouth 2.0. They don't know how to evaluate a website based merely on code and content to determine how popular or how important it is. So they will look at the links that point to the website itself to evaluate if the content should be trusted or not. Which means that a lot of people cheated a lot. I can create 50 websites. If I do it properly, they can all gain authority, and then I can link to other things and sell those links. And then you end up with people buying equity online. I mean, it gets pretty intense. It's the SEO equivalent of someone spending money to buy a sword in World of Warcraft, for example. It's something that I find absolutely mind-boggling. I know it works, but still. So what's important to you today, if I need to communicate one thing, it's how does Google read a website? Because yes, they do read websites. They will find them, and it can get pretty embarrassing because they will find some stuff that you didn't expect them to find, like how Harvard University actually chooses its recruitment providers and their own internal memo on it. Yes, it's a PDF that floated on Google that they didn't want to be found. I did find it. Or as one of my old unnamed bosses found out, if you took a picture half drunk in Paraguay with a blow-up doll, I will find it. I still have it. Crawling and indexing, how does it actually happen? How does Google read a website? Well, the first step is crawling. The bot will fetch different types of contents online through an algorithmic process. So there's a rhyme to their way of exploring the web. They're not doing it blindly. They're doing it according to a process, and if you don't fit into that box, good luck getting your content discovered. There's different ways you can submit it to Google, of course, but if you're relying on them to just find it, oftentimes you'll be badly surprised, or they'll find stuff that you want buried. Then once everything has been crawled, the little bot, the Google bot, comes back with the information, and then the indexing happens. So the indexing is everything that gets brought back to Google is evaluated. So the words on the page, the code itself, like I said, if it cannot be interpreted properly, you're going to run into some problems. Then you also have images that are evaluated, and they're evaluated different ways, okay? How do they do that? Well, it happens when they're serving the results. When I'm searching for something, this index is actually being queried to find content that matches my expectations. And how do they do that? They use more than 200 separate factors. Like there's 200 things that they will look at. So when I have people asking me, so can you tell me where I'm going to show up and how much traffic this is going to bring me? I'm going to be like, well, hypothetically, help me figure out what these 200 factors are, and then get me a team of data scientists for 3 years, and hope that they don't change the algorithm, and I'll give you an answer. So I keep talking about algorithms. Here are a few algorithms that you should know. They don't necessarily impact you in your work every day, but they will impact you as a user, so it's still useful. Panda, just quick note, I don't choose the names. Sometimes Google doesn't even choose the name because they take forever to validate that they made a tweak, so the community will choose some names. Panda penalizes bad content. What do I mean by bad content? Well, people went, oh, Google wants content. Sure, I'm going to use something similar to a Markov chain and create content that seems kind of good, but as a human, when we read it, it's complete crap. We don't understand what it means. A lot of Chinese knockoff websites for cheap Louis Vuitton bags, they're specialized in that. Now they're getting penalized. Penguin, and I think I wrote it in French because I always switch to 2 languages, it penalizes bad links. So remember when I told you can buy links? Yeah. They got wise to that. They actually fixed it. They released something that will penalize websites that buy links. So when somebody tells you, you know what, we're going to have you do the code, and then the content, we're just going to steal it from a website or take it from somewhere, and then we're just going to buy the links, just stare at the person and go, I would not do that. Or if somebody tells you that it's going to be okay, it's not your job to say no, but just let them know, hey, you're expecting me to give you SEO knowledge that I'm supposed to have because I'm a front end. Well, this is what I know. It's not good. Don't do it. Then you have Pigeon. Pigeon is a local SEO filter. So for example, if I'm looking for women tech makers Montreal, I'm supposed to see the website because Google will have understood with various different ways that, hey, I need to show a local content. If you're looking for pizza at 2 a.m. on the Saint Laurent Boulevard, if they're giving you Domino's pizza that is open in Minnesota, it's not going to work. So they got wise to that. They're getting better. Then you have RankBrain, which is an artificial intelligence layer. It's the questions that you've seen. They're able to actually understand, hey, people are looking for something else, so let's give it to them. Or if you click on a result, then you go back and you go again on Google. That means the website was bad, right? It didn't answer your questions. It's called pogo sticking. Well, they're getting rid of that with RankBrain. They're offering you more choices. These choices update live. And then you have another one, and that's one I included. I mean, there's a lot of them, but this one you have to know, intrusive interstitials. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but basically they decided in January that they had enough with pop-ups and overlays that happen on mobile, and they're penalizing them. If I can't get as a user because my fingers are too fat or you made it too difficult, you're actually going to get demoted in search rankings. So it has to do with design, yes, but it also has to do with how this thing is coded. So look into it. Let's get started with the simple things, the basics. Meta title and meta description. Now, I'm going to be honest. Meta descriptions, they're no longer a ranking signal. Why? Because people abuse the crap out of them. We used to cheat our way to glory so often that Google decided, you know what, never mind. There's an entire meta tag. If somebody asks you to fill out meta keywords, just look them in the eye and say, do you plan to optimize for Bing? Do you have any visits from Bing? And if they tell you no, then you go, it's useless for you. It actually doesn't count. There's only Bing that decided to maintain this thing. So meta titles do count, and there's a bit of hoodoo in there that nobody ever takes the time to explain to people. First things first, 70 characters max. If you had asked me 6 months ago, I would have told you 63. If you had asked me a few years back, it was 55. And if you had asked me before, it was 75. It keeps changing, okay? It keeps changing, so you have to be on the lookout for this. The other thing is it should be unique per page, because otherwise Google is just saying, you know what, you're trying to rank this thing in its own specific entity, but you're telling me that the whole entire website has the same title. It's not flying. It's not working at all. The other thing is, you probably saw this as a user and didn't pay attention. The little dashes and that bar, they are actually a nomenclature for us in SEO. If your meta title is talking about, let's say shampoo, and then you have keep your hair, your blue hair vibrant for a long time, hypothetically. These are two different ideas, right? They're related. Shampoo will help me maintain my color, but they're not the same idea. So you separate them with a dash, okay? Now, if you want to introduce a notion in the meta title that has nothing to do with what you're talking about, go for the bar. And if you're wondering what the heck has nothing to do with your main title that should be in that little tag for your code, it's oftentimes the name of your company. So that's the whole branding. And most developers that have to deal with this, you guys get stuck with the, it's a tag in the code. The writing department is not going to do this. We forgot it at the last minute. Can you do something automatically? Well, the answer is you could if you're smart about it. So that bar, you can make sure that the important title, so what the heck is this page about? You put it in the front. Then you put that bar, and then you put the company name. And you get even smarter. So if you do it automatically and it's 70 characters and your client's name is like 30 characters, well, you can have a rule that says, hey, if my title is longer than 30 characters or 35 characters, drop anything like with the bar and after, you just drop it. You keep the important stuff in there automatically. Now, meta descriptions, it's pretty much the same game. 155 characters. It should be unique per page, and it should convince the person to click on your search result. Now, this is more copywriting. I agree. I totally agree. Do not fall for the, oh, can you take the first few sentences or words in the beginning of the article? Yeah, that's bullshit. I know we're not at the bullshit level yet, but I've ended up with meta descriptions that are like, since ancient times, apples have been used by humanity. Okay, great. That was an article about how to make apple pie. So keep in mind as a developer, what you should know about meta descriptions. If Google doesn't like what you're giving it, so if it's not unique or in the right language, which you would not believe how many times in Canada you will see like English content for a French page. I don't know why this happens. Well, I do know. It just depends on the team I'm working with. But if you don't put anything in there, it's better than putting the same thing over and over and over again. So if you don't have anything relevant, just breathe deep and tell the person asking you to generate this that if Google doesn't like it, they're just going to pick whatever they want on the page and it's just going to look gross, which happens a lot. Or now, because there's artificial intelligence at work, they will decide to rewrite your descriptions. That's a little known fact. So if you have someone trying to pressure you to create that meta description out of thin air, just let them know this. Just tell them, you know what, look into this yourself, get back to me with what I should be doing. Semantic content, so that's where you guys can help me with the content part of my job. Yes, content is very, very important to what I do, simply because, you know, we're trying to answer people's questions on Google. We can't do that by magic. Content is usually how it goes. So you have various tags, and there's actually pretty heavy documentation for all of them. If they do get confusing, or if you are not sure it's good, ping me on Twitter, or simple rule of thumb. If you find content regarding, I don't know, like the canonical tag that is more than 2 years old, do not read it, please. Unless it's Google's own thing. Because you will find a lot of stuff that used to be relevant, or a lot of hacks that used to be good and that ended up penalized. So you don't want to rely on old information. Canonicals are something that you use outside of fandom websites to talk about situations where you have content that is duplicated, but you want to tell Google, okay, I don't want you to block my content because you think I stole it or I'm copying it from somewhere, or you think that I copied it from my own website and creating problems. Canonicals are an easy way to go, hey, Google, if you have one URL to show in there, you show this one. So, tangible example. On a pharmacy website, if you have like, you know, like the encyclopedia type thing like WebMD, okay. So, did you know that grapefruit is actually not necessarily good for pregnant women, and it's not necessarily good if you're taking antidepressants? So there's an article talking about grapefruit. Is it good for your health? And then you're going to have pregnant ladies, antidepressants, other types of meds, and it's like this encyclopedic article that explains it all. Pretty sweet. Problem is that this website has a section for pregnant ladies and has a section for antidepressants. So this content shows up twice, right? So you have to make a choice internally with, well, the tech team and the content team. Do I want to give a boost to the pregnant section, so the pregnant article, or the antidepressant? Or do I even want to give a boost fruits that are bad with medication? You have to pick, and you have to specify with the canonical tag. If there can only be one, and I know there can only be one, Google, pick this one. Pagination is the opposite. If your article is going like 7 pages long and it's like this entire epic thing, good. Tell Google, this is page 1, this is page 2, this is page 3, up to whatever you want. So you can tell it, this is the previous page, this is the next page. Your code gives context to that content. That means that Google is not going to randomly give an answer with page 3 when the person should have started with page 1. This is very, very useful because you control the visibility and you control how it shows up. Rich snippets are the same thing, or rich cards now that have been added. You remember Angela Lansbury. No, I meant Betty White. So, no, but I do love Betty White. So, Betty White, she has a rich card that shows up, and she has that knowledge graph on the right, and there's like all this type of information showing up. Or if you're looking for fluffy pancakes, you will have stars, how much time it takes, how many people rated this recipe. This information doesn't happen by magic. Like it's coded. It's put in the code to highlight this information. So it's giving context and meaning to this information and helps display it correctly in Google. This is not something that the recipe maker is going to do. This is not something that the copywriter will do. This is something that a developer does. Making a choice going, okay, my information will be highlighted in this way through code. And then Google can latch onto it and display it correctly. Same thing with Open Graph. I keep talking about Google, but the reality is that search engine optimization, like I said, it's almost everywhere. So think about how the content travels once it's off your website. If I want to share something, I don't know, like from ModCloth, which is a clothing company, on Pinterest, you automatically have the name of the dress, then you have the bar with ModCloth, so I know where it's from. I have the price. I can even know if it's available or not, and the image is shared properly. So everything is structured because they made a coding choice with Open Graph. It doesn't just travel. Like people will be able to find that dress back and know how much it costs. Same thing with content hierarchy, but apply to your website. H1, H2, H3, and up to H6. You should know that Google cares about H1 through H3. They actually do weigh this. And if the main topic of my page happens to be missing heading because you didn't specify an H1, that's a bit of a problem for me. It's the same thing with hierarchies that are a bit confusing because HTML5 is much more advanced than Google's crawling algorithm, sadly. Meaning that I understand semantically you can have an H1 that is a sidebar and that is in the footer and that is in the top. No. For SEOs, we're very old school. We need like one H1 that really makes sense, that is structured, that is part of the content. Why? Well, for SEO and accessibility reasons. If I'm looking at an omelet recipe and the main thing that I see as an H1 is sign up for discounts, once again, it does not make sense. I understand that H tags are used for very specific reasons when you develop, but keep in mind, if they're having you do this, get back to them, use the web developer toolbar, you go for document outline, and you actually have this neatly outlined for you. Take a screenshot and go, is this really what we were talking about? Do you want me to do something about this, optimize it? Because otherwise it's not going to be SEO friendly. Which brings me to SEO assets. What happens when you've done it all right? The code is perfect, the content is perfect, the links, I mean, it has gone viral, your page is well positioned, you're #1 on your query, awesome. And then you have to do a redesign. Or some genius at marketing decided that this entire section of the website should no longer exist because reasons. Great, so I also have to deal with the marketing geniuses, and the problem is that I lose 40% of my traffic when this happens. Up to, actually the worst I've seen is a huge drop of 60%. Why? Because all this hard work goes down the drain. Because then you move everything and it's a massive pile of 404s. Great. So Google goes, oh, awesome. So everything that was good here, I can no longer consider. Let me move on to maybe a competitor. So what do I do when a redesign happens? Well, I will crawl the entire website like Google would do. I will pull all the URLs, but this is something you can do as well with a crawler. And then, and this is where my type of hoodoo happens, I will use metrics where I will determine if this page has SEO karma, like SEO assets. What is the page authority? What happens? What is the theme, etc. And I will evaluate them going, this one is super important, this one is not. If you do not have the luxury of dealing with somebody that actually has fun in Excel like I do, then you should keep in mind a few things. Number one, when in doubt, you always do a 301 redirection. Why? Because it's a permanent HTTPS response code. This says, hi, I am passing all of the karma accumulated from that page to the next one. Okay, that helps. Now, what people are not telling you, and we know this through tests, it's that if I redirect a page one-to-one, I have a 60 to 70% SEO asset being passed. If you redirect to the main category, it's like 50%. Okay. If somebody asks you, you know what, you handle this, you figure out, just put a redirection rule, send everything to the homepage. Then you're passing on only 30% of what you have. So that means that I'm going to have to work 3 times as hard for nothing. So just keep this in mind when somebody comes going, can we just change the URL, or this doesn't exist anymore, or we're just rethinking the entire architecture, or, you know, like the, oh, we're not going to make such a huge change, don't worry about it. Yeah, usually when I hear that, I'm very, very worried. So if I can leave you with this, just keep in mind, and if it's not scoped, just raise your hand and go, okay, cool, but do you want me to do the 301s? And if you want me to cry, or if you want to make another SEO cry, you can also choose to do meta refresh, which is an impossible thing for us to handle because the bot just doesn't understand what you're doing. It doesn't understand you're redirecting. It's too stupid to understand. So keep in mind, 301. Now, I know that most people think about SEO when they think about technical SEO in terms of front end. Yes. However, I will fuck with back-end developers too. The reason why is that I absolutely despise slow websites. It messes with my bottom line. Google hates it as well. They are the famous people behind the web should be fast quote. They have provided quite a few tools like the PageSpeed Insights, the mobile index testing tool, and whatever else not. These are nice indications, but sometimes the tools are very stupid and will give 100% to a website that is still slow. So keep in mind, when you have an SEO coming in-house, if they are technically inclined, they're going to look at your hosting choices. Yeah, I'm going to ask you about it. And you may not feel comfortable answering, but I have to know, because if the server response time is at least a second, then I'm worried. I want to optimize things server side. How can I do that? Well, it depends. For example, for any Angular website, I'm getting ahead of myself, but Google is not able to read the code. Or, well, it will read the code, it just won't understand what the heck you're talking about, so it will just display a lot of percentages and literally your code instead of content. So what do you do? Well, you should prefer a pre-rendering service that actually shows the page as it should be seen by Google. But then you have a third-party choice, or you can do it server-side. I'm always going to encourage you to handle your stuff server-side and figure it out on your own. Then there's the cache. Optimize the cache all the time. And the problem is that most of the time, people expect you to do this without giving you vital information. Like, hey, I want you to optimize all this, but I actually have signed a contract with another provider, and it will undo all the work you've done. So, true story. Been through that. Now I ask, do you use a CDN? Do you use anything? Just list it. The other thing is, most people won't tell you that, hey, this ad, it's a banner that we're going to have for a year. Or we're going to have it for a day. You should ask these things going, hey, can I optimize? Like, can I have a hierarchy going on? Can we think about this? Can I cache all the things? Compressing images. This is another one I'm going to bug you with. Why? Because everybody thinks that images is someone else's responsibility. Like, oh, the designer optimizes that stuff. It's okay. Or, oh, yeah, the client has given us a database. Actually, we can query, like, all the images. They're in there. It's good. We're not looking at it. Or, it's, oh, yeah, we're going to have a script that runs, and then nobody actually writes the script or implements it. So you end up with really, really heavy images. Like, I had a page once where there was a picture of a ham that was so big that the ham itself was taking 3 seconds to load. So I literally had to go in and tell the QA team, we have a ham problem. Thank goodness they had humor. This is a very, very quick test you can do, though. If your pictures are too heavy, you have services like APIs that you can connect with that just optimize this on the fly. Like, any type of CMS, you can have a plugin that will just take care of that stuff as soon as it's uploaded. Because as you know, with a CMS, you have your one picture, right? But then you have this thumbnail version, then you have like the medium version, and then you have the large version, then you have the original version, right? And if none of these things are optimized, then that's a lot of pictures that are weighing down your site. And I've read recently that actually the number of images on a page has increased quite a lot. And the compression has not. So they're getting bigger and bigger and heavier. So it sucks. Quickly test this out. Like, that's not something I necessarily have to do. I'm super excited when I see that teams have taken care of this, and I can't complain. The other thing is optimized JavaScript. So what do I mean by optimized JavaScript? Well, it's asynchronous everything. Okay, fine. There's minification. There's different ways of doing this. Like, if you think that you are suffering like this whole code bloat because of JavaScript, please review it because it impacts me as well. Like, I will see that stuff, and sometimes you'll have SEOs that will come with a report going, optimize JavaScript, and they don't tell you why. Well, you have tools, and I have tools too, to know what you can optimize. It's rather easy to do. And then optimize CSS, same thing. If you have different files, if you have different scripts for JavaScript, like that are running outside and are not tied together and it's not clean, and you're relying on like something in the page itself, and then your other style sheet, it becomes a mess. It becomes a mess, and it quickly drags my performance down. So keep this in mind. Languages are another issue. Why? Well, because if you are living in a country that is bilingual, just like here, or if you happen to have clients that have websites in 5 different languages or more, you are going to run into problems. What do I mean by problems? Well, there's a few ones, like the typical, Google can't figure out what your homepage is. Like, clients are like, but if I have a website in English and in French, I want the robot and the user to choose his own experience. Yeah, the robot can't. It does not have a browser that specifies, my language is this. So what is going to happen? Well, the robot is going to be very confused and pick things randomly, like Fringlish. I've seen that happen. So an entire page is just indexed as a garbled mess with 2 languages in it. Or the page won't show up, period. Or Google will just choose another page that is not the one you expected to be your homepage. So as a developer, just let them know, hey, you have to choose. If there's a landing page that like a company.com, you have to redirect to a page like /en/fr. I don't care what it is, but you have to make a choice, okay? And then if the person actually wants something else, I'm expecting them to search in the proper google.ca language. Like, that's their own deal, or they're a big boy or girl or anything else on the spectrum. They will click that little button and go to their language. Now, the other thing that most people don't realize, Google, once again, is not that smart when it comes to languages. So you have to help it along. The first thing you should do is actually not even hreflang. Please forget that. URL structure. Do not put the language as a variable at the end. Please just use a / something to specify the language as early on as you can. Do not put the language at the end of the URL just randomly. What I mean by that is, you can go on the Saint-Hubert website and check it out. It's pretty painful. You have the URL with like the whole chicken description and what you should do, and then there's like a little dash at the end, not a dot, and then you have FR, and then .html. How is a robot supposed to understand that these two letters at the end that are separated by nothing, that are not contextualized, represent a language? It can't. So back to hreflang. Hreflang is probably something you've dealt with. It's not lang. It's Google's own answer to, hey, you should know that my page is in this language. If you want to see a perfect example of this used incredibly well, but I mean to a psycho level, go to Airbnb. Airbnb has hreflangs that take up about this much space. I mean on the regular laptop. They will specify all the languages, all the variations. Like English Australia is not the same content as English UK for them. What does it mean? It means that the Australian content will rank well in the Australian Google, and the British one, the UK one, will rank well where it should. So you are helping gain visibility in a proper way for the proper people. Now, when it comes to our case in Canada, why should you still care? Because if a language is having a problem, like oftentimes they'll either favor French or English, and then the other part of the website will just be drowning, you can give it a boost. You can actually tell Google, you know that super popular content about lettuce that is in English? Hey, I have the same thing, same exact thing in French. You should check it out. So this, your code will help actually the bottom line for the company that is bilingual. So hreflang is not necessarily easy to implement. I'm not giving all the details today, but look at the documentation and you'll see how it works. It really, really, really helps differentiate things, because the one thing I hate in Canada is when I see websites that are competing against themselves, not even the competition. So you'll have like a result in French, and then a result in English, then a result in French, and the result in English on an English query, for example. This is not great user experience, and it's just basically Google not understanding your code. So you have the lang attribute as well. Please specify it correctly. I don't want something like FRFR in Canada. It doesn't really work. It's kind of a lie. So just pay attention to these tiny things. And like I said, it's one of the biggest pet peeves that I have. Make sure that your homepage always has a default language. What I mean by default language is, don't tell me you're going to rely on a cookie or the browser or whatever. No, specify the language. Then if you want to personalize that experience for someone else later on, you can. But it really has to redirect with the 301 to the proper page. I've had this issue personally, like it's an anecdote. I had a client with 5 languages, and every time you search for that client, they saw a huge drop and they couldn't figure out what was going on in their traffic. Turns out that they decided with a plugin that everything should be automatically translated in the language of the browser. So Google just kept indexing nonstop English content for Spanish, for German, for Italian, for everything. So they weren't ranking well, because if you search for anything in German, for example, their English content kind of comes out, but competitors or blogs that were talking about their product were showing up way before them because they decided to make it easy on themselves. Great, it's still not working. So I'm moving on to social discovery. Once again, it's all about making sure that through your code, things are visible and show up properly. Ranking algorithms are everywhere, like I've said. So what you can rely on is Open Graph to control how it shows up. You can control the picture that shows up. You can control what the description is, what the title is. And you can automate that stuff as well. So that's very interesting and important. Let me highlight why. I don't know if you've ever gone on YouTube explorations. I kind of do that once in a while, and it's not a fun time, but I still do it. I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a lot of videos that are like, they favor butts or really pretty ladies, and then you click on it, and it's like, how to properly prepare zucchini. Well, it's Open Graph at work when you think about it. Like if you search, and I did this live a few weeks ago, if you search for Britney Spears toxic, you will have a picture of like Britney Spears going like this in Google. Okay, so I know it's Britney Spears. She's wearing the little like airline attendant suit. I know it's the song. Except that when you think about it and when you look at that video, the first shot of that video is actually like some birds or pterodactyls flying into the sun. And it's not the first shot. Like somebody selected Britney's face and outfit to confirm that it's the right content that you're going to be looking at. Well, that's what Open Graph is. That's how you control how your content displays. I will try next time to include the zucchini video because it's pretty epic. Like I don't understand the link between a Brazilian butt and zucchini, but it happens. They do get the clicks. They do show up. So beyond that mystery, I just wanted to cover the basics, show you how it works, and also give you tools because I could be using this time to show you code, to show you how I would set stuff up, but that's not the point. I genuinely want you to be curious about it and look into it because you may find solutions that I'm not even going to think about. So how do you get started with SEO? First things first, you can test your performance with Pingdom. Please don't use Google's tool. I understand that everybody relies on it, but it's not as accurate, and it will also recommend that you do stuff like minification of JavaScript you have no control over because it's third-party ad platforms. So that's great when you get a list like this, but you're just going to stare at the person and go, yeah, I can't optimize that. Like, I can't do anything about it. So if you want something relevant, go for Pingdom. Now, this other tool is Screaming Frog. I don't know why, but SEOs keep naming their software after ridiculous things. We have Beam Me Up, Wild Shark, Raven, Screaming Frog. It's just, when I have to submit this to my accountant, she asks me a lot of questions. Screaming Frog is not free. It's £99, so that equates to about half of your soul in Canadian dollars. It's super useful, and I have a free alternative that is called Xenu. It's Xenu for those of you that want to try. It's named after the god of Scientology because we're fucked up. Screaming Frog is always up to date. You can actually have a lot of control over it. Do not be fooled by the free version because then you'll think that, oh, I can do all these things, and no, you can't. They limit themselves at 500 URLs. When they say 500 URLs, it includes your JavaScript, your images, your everything. But why do I love this tool? Because I can crawl entire websites, and I can export it in Excel. So I can know if the meta titles and meta descriptions are too short, too long, same language, identical. I can specify all this, like in the tool. If you decide that you don't want to go for 70 characters, fine. Put it in there. You can specify by pixel if you want to track this. You can also see the stuff that I'm going to come after. Remember when I told you Google has a tendency to index stuff that you don't want indexed? Yeah, that tool will show you as well. And it has different crawling schemes, so pretty useful for you. If you want to see, hey, is my JavaScript really messing with the way Google sees my website? Great way to do fetch and render. It will actually show you a picture of what the robot sees. So feel free to use that one. I've seen devs be super excited about this. Google Search Console. I have never seen anybody be excited about this, though. This is the thing that only I will check because I'm a giant nerd and that no one cares about this. This is where I'm going to come up to you and go, Google has detected that you have 266,000 URLs that are 404s. Have you done a redesign recently? This is the place where I'm going to get an alert going, hey, we've noticed some really strange things going on. We're about to penalize you because your website seems to be hacked. This is where I'm going to see how Google is taking to my new pages. Like I said, you know, they're crawling the web, but they're probably not seeing your new content. You can see, I've submitted 500 pages. Why are there only 20? Well, it's because you're probably not doing it right in terms of code. And the last one, which is a disgusting little screenshot, is the web developer toolbar. I don't know how many of you use this thing, but for me, it's really, really useful because I can disable JavaScript and quickly see if there's a mess there. I can quickly see the image outs. I can see the document outline for the H1s, as I've specified before. Like, it's a treasure trove if you actually want to give a visual representation of a code problem to someone. So those are the 4 tools I would recommend. If someone else wants you to use whatever else, go for it. But these are trusted oldies and goodies. Now let's get to the bullshit. SEO is dead. Ugh. This comes out almost every single year. There is an SEO that is going to peddle a book right after that to tell you that it's not. But they have an article going, it no longer matters. Yeah, except that there's one problem. Most of the websites I work on, 60% of their traffic comes from organic sources, which is SEO. And if you think that you do not bring in traffic through SEO, either you don't have any content or you're doing things differently, fine. Like if you have an app, I get it. But we've had a few websites that did some tests that they de-indexed their entire website by using like the no index tag on every single page, telling Google, you know what? Shove off. We don't want you. And they noticed that their direct traffic, which in analytics language is either the person knows that URL by heart, has it as a favorite, or Google Analytics doesn't know where the traffic comes from, so it goes in the black box, direct. Well, a good portion of the direct traffic is also SEO traffic, where the information doesn't get passed properly. So every time you hear someone tell you, we don't care about SEO, double check anyway. Now, this part of the bullshit has nothing to do with developers. It has to do everything with my kind. You may not be aware of this, but there is a definition just like for you guys, black hat and white hat. Black hat is somebody that will use any method to rank. Those can include methods that are not appreciated by Google. They include methods that are penalized by Google, which means that if you give an SEO an incentive to rank really fast and they only have a 6-month contract, they will rank you super, super fast within a few months, like few weeks. But then you're going to get penalized at the end and you will be sandboxed. That means start a new website. Good luck, because this one is dead. They're not going to consider it. I had an interview where they wanted to hire me, and I used one of my tools to actually see what was going on. I noticed that most of their links were coming from Ukraine. And I looked at the guy and I said, you know, point blank, I don't do black hat SEO. And he actually had the courtesy to just look down, look ashamed. And he was like, yeah, I know we're paying for it. I'm like, you can't hire me right now because you are going to expect me to do miracles as if you had a clean website when you actually didn't. You are suffering from this. Now, black hat can also go another route because I keep telling you about what's not allowed by Google, what's not super nice, what's not super ethical. There's the downright illegal. All SEOs are not necessarily people that come from marketing. A lot of programmers have gone into SEO because there's a lot of money to be made. And these guys will literally hack government websites, install their links. Like I said, the link building, install their links and head out. And they will boost websites that have nothing to do with products that should be shown. So one of these SEOs actually got arrested a few years ago, is still doing time for this, but he's not the only one. One of the biggest reasons why websites get hacked is SEO. It's because people want to mess with your code, put their links, or advertise their products, and you may not even know about it because the end game is not to put, you know, like a defaced screen going, my team hacked this website. No. We just, you know, want to put a few links towards a few products that may or may not be legal. And we don't want you to know about it. So that's where the Search Console comes in handy. If you don't know if you've been hacked, Google will send you an alert. I've had to clean up a few websites like this with a security team, and sometimes it's not adequate because these guys will tell me, we're not picking up anything, because the security team is actually just one webmaster that is in the company. And I'll go, great, but I'm using, you know, Screaming Frog, and I see all these nasty links that are showing up. Like, we really need to clean it up. Well, when I do my check, everything is fine. Yeah, but I'm letting you know I see it, and Google sees it, so you need to see it. But there's even better than black hat. There's negative SEO. So, if you can't be first because you're the best, why don't you become first by, you know, putting everybody else down so you shine? This is a real case. I've had a few issues with this. I know that a lot of people talk about this like it's a unicorn case. It's not. I spoke to a friend of mine who's a designer, and she goes, I'm losing a few thousand visits every week. My first reaction was, wow, you have a design website that has, you know, tens of thousands of visits every week? Cool. The next one was, okay, so what's going on? And she told me, oh, well, my SEO friend looked at it, and he didn't find anything, so probably my content is not good, or I don't know what's going on. I'm like, no. We're sitting down. Like, we sat down in a hotel at a conference, and I'm like, come here, I'll show you. And we realized something. I'm looking at her, and I have, like, a visualization of this. Like, I have a neat little graph. I'm like, Stephanie, do you by any chance sell used Rolexes? She's like, no. I'm like, okay, so how about cheap Louis Vuitton bags? And she's like, no. I'm like, are you sure? She's like, yeah. I'm like, how about Viagra? And she's like, no. And then she's staring at me like I'm insane. I'm like, hey, how about you look at my screen? Basically what happened was an agency stole her work and she called them out on it, except that she has so many readers that the agency got a bad rep, right? So what do? They don't want the content to show up. They don't want their name associated with that fiasco. So you tank the article or the website that is talking bad about you. So you buy links that Google will look at and go, hey, this website is associated with like all these bad products, so we're not going to show it on the relevant design queries. Yeah, they made her tank by buying a few links, and we had to clean this up. So once again, this is not necessarily developer related, but if you end up seeing funky stuff, just flag it and go, I'm pretty sure negative SEO is going on. Now, my favorite one, Google will figure it out. Now, if you've been sitting here, you kind of heard me say quite a few times that Google can't figure it out. There's various reasons for this. And, oh, yeah, we're going to get to the next one. Google can't figure out your language. Sometimes Google can't figure out your code. Sometimes Google actually doesn't understand what the heck you're talking about. Sometimes Google doesn't even see your website because you haven't submitted it properly. So please, when people tell you, oh, search engine will figure it out, just do a quick search in Google. I mean, half of being a developer is knowing how to Google stuff properly. So you are already an expert at this. Google can read all JavaScript, which goes with Google figure it out. No, which I find absolutely mind-boggling, because if you're a company that is sponsoring and that is really heavy on Angular, how could you let Angular go through when it can't be indexed properly? I still don't get it, because this is what happens to me. This is a real screenshot, by the way. Like, this is a test. It's called Fetch and Render in the Search Console, and it shows you this is how Googlebot saw the page. So it will show how your user sees the page and how Googlebot saw it. And clearly, Googlebot is enjoying your code deeply. There is actually something worse than this. It's for React or Angular, Google will index literally your code, not what it's supposed to display. So I've had a client where I go, are you specialized in? And I will read a line of code and like, no, that's our code. I'm like, that's what I thought. So could you please pre-render stuff? And they're like, oh yeah, we've been meaning to do that. I'm like, yes, please do, because currently you have 20,000 pages that are indexed exactly with these lines of code. So if you have any doubt as to what you made in JavaScript, just go to the Search Console and do a fetch and render. If you can't do that, or you don't have access to this tool because you can't, okay, fine. Go in the cache. I don't know if you've seen the little triangle in a URL. In search results, you have a little triangle. Click on that and it will show like the cache, how Google cached your website. Check it out. If you see any problems, that means you should review your code. That's very easy. Or Web Developer Toolbar, disable all JavaScript. That's a pretty brutal one because Google now can read most JavaScript, but you will get an idea of how it shows up. If it shows up properly, you're good. I explained this to a startup, well, a team in a startup, and the guys came up to me and like, well, everything comes up fine except our navigation menu. I'm like, okay, quick test. If you want to see what is indexed in Google, go site, 2 dots, and then your domain name. You will see how many pages show up. These guys, for their startup, had exactly 1 page, because Google couldn't read their navigation menu and their links. That was the only part it couldn't read. Too bad it was the only part where they had links. So, I want to be #1 on. I can't even begin to list why this is bullshit. The problem with I want to be #1 on is that Google personalizes results. So based on your browsing history, based on your location, based on your browser language, am I logged into Google or not? Am I on mobile, tablet, desktop? Hey, even people in the Google Plus network, yes, it's still alive. And your email, if you use Gmail, your results will not be the same. What does it mean? It means that I want to be #1 on. Sure, let me know all these details. I'll customize your ranking, dude. I'll make it happen for you specifically. Other than that, I can't give reports to people going, you're number one on. What I care about is, do you have the proper visibility? Do you show up where you should? Do you show up in places that will actually bring you qualified traffic? By qualified traffic, I don't want to go on a marketing tangent. Like people who are interested in the content or product you propose. That's it. I don't want to bring traffic because I'm number one on the query hot dog when people are not looking for this. Like I want to be number one on toaster. This is a real story. I'm like, do you want to be number one competing with Wikipedia? Like, what is your audience? If I'm typing in toaster, I could want a picture of a toaster. I could want the history of a toaster. I don't necessarily want to buy a toaster. So just be smart about this. There's also, SEO is all about keywords, right? I love this one. I love this one so much because it reduces everything that I do to 3 keywords max. I don't know where to start explaining this. Okay, so let's get back to links, content, and code. So yes, it's all about keywords, sure, but with like the artificial intelligence, the machine learning, the semantic code, those keywords don't mean anything. I want to fit the search intent. I want to know what people are searching for to give them the proper result. If I'm typing in like buying trousers and I happen to be in Canada, I'm expecting Google to actually return pants. It should happen. It makes sense. Like all of this is non-negotiable. So if you want to deal with keywords, that's great. I encourage you very, very much to return to 2004. Or alternatively, I think you may have just a few weeks left with Baidu, the Chinese search engine that's, making strides, but still they rely heavily on keywords. Or Bing. Security doesn't matter. So why doesn't it matter, and why do people actually just look at me dead in the eyes and tell me that my insistence on posting articles about, switching to HTTPS correctly is only clickbait? I've had a front-end developer tell me this last week via LinkedIn. Yeah, the problem is that HTTPS is a ranking signal right now. It's actually taken into account by search engines. Like if you're not HTTPS, you will lose positions, you will be demoted. But it also goes hand in hand with just proper security hygiene. Like I just told you that most websites that get hacked, they get hacked for SEO reasons. So you already know that people like me are aware of how to mess with stuff like this. And we're not qualified for messing with it, but we still do it. That's what a hacker is, basically. So if you don't take care of security, you're probably going to lose in rankings. But if you do get attacked, and they successfully get in and stick their links in there, the cleanup job is just insane. Like just reaching traffic and proper visibility again is a lot more work. So let's get to the fun stuff, the future, because I've told you all about the things that can go wrong and all the things that make me angry. Great. But where are we headed? Well, SEO is actually a really hard game to play lately. It's gotten harder and harder because there's more penalties, but also the results are getting smarter. Like you do not have as much control as you used to. So what's happening? Well, you have natural language processing, which I personally find very interesting because I got to see them be terrible at it for a few years, and now they're finally getting better. Fundamentally, and I love this quote, it's the difference between give me what I said and give me what I want. And this is super important because sometimes I know what I want, but I don't know what it's called. Or sometimes I think I know what it's called, but it's not exactly that. So Google is getting a lot smarter at this based on the device you're searching from. They're looking at if you're typing your query as a text or if you're using Google search with voice. And I use that a lot more than I used to, so I see the difference in results. It's looking at number of consecutive searches. So if people keep going back and forth, they're like, okay, we're not giving you what you want. So what do you need? They try to get smarter at this because their end game is to keep you on Google so they can show you ads. Well, not just ads, but let's get down to it. That's how they make their money. Similar searches by other people. So they are trying to give you an idea of what other people are looking for, because if you have this problem, others probably have it as well. What I mean by problems, Google is in a very specific position right now in the market. If, let's say hypothetically, What's the most embarrassing thing I can... If I have hemorrhoids, am I going to publicly ask for help? No. I'm not even going to ask my pharmacist about this. I'm going to ask Google first, because Google knows. And it's a reality for many, many of us. We will turn to Google absent-mindedly. I mean, that's why it became a verb. So they're upping their natural language processing efforts to really, really help people out. I'm not saying that it's perfect. I mean, you've seen that SEO had its heyday in 1850, but it's getting there. And it's getting really better. Artificial intelligence, so a rank brain that I was talking about. This is absolutely fascinating to me because they're using AI to process queries. So they're really thinking about words in context with entities. They're like trying to mimic how people think and consume the content. So yes, it does improve search results, and it does contribute to Google's effort to rewrite everything that's been done. What I find absolutely amazing is that, okay, so it embeds language into entities, so vectors that can be understood by a computer. Awesome. So I could even make this more complicated when I'm talking to you about it and make it even shinier because everybody loves AI. But what I find amazing working with copywriters is that they've been doing this all along. Like, they are so good at semantic fields. They are so good at understanding entities. They are great at this. And for some reason, the tech industry is going, oh, yeah, we're figuring this out like one step at a time. And we're doing these amazing things. And it's like, yeah, humans have been doing it for a while. And they've actually found a way to make it scalable. And nobody's talking about it. But now that Google is on that game, woo! Mobile. Google is actually going to split its index. So when I was talking about the index, telling you, hey, it goes into a giant index before it like shows up in your search pages, there's going to be a mobile-only index. Why? Because they want to conquer that channel. Like, mobile traffic is big, big money. And they really, really want to control it. So they're going to get even better at showing mobile results. So you may make a website that's responsive. Just pay attention. It may show up in desktop and perform properly, and it could actually not show up in mobile anymore. They also do the accelerated mobile pages, also known as AMP or AMP. Now, this is a bit of code that you should look into when people ask you for it. Ethically, I don't like it. I understand why they're doing it, but for me it's a monopoly case, fine. But if you want your pages to show up super fast in mobile, it actually works. It really does. I don't know if you've noticed, like the little mobile search results that have a lightning bolt in a gray circle, those are AMP pages. You click on it, loads like this. So this will help you, but the problem is that there's quite a few things that you're still figuring out. If you go to the AMP project, it's actually constantly evolving. If you want to contribute and make this thing a bit better, I encourage you to. There's also voice search that you'll have to consider. So how is your content structured in the code to respond to voice queries? So what does it mean specifically if I'm like using my tablet or my mobile to make fluffy pancakes and I need a recipe? Your code is what's going to show up in Google's search result pages. Actually, there's like that rich card, and it will have steps, like 1, 2, 3, like it shows up structured. The other thing is fight against annoying pop-ups. So remember when I told you intrusive interstitials? They do happen, and they're penalizing it a lot more. So when you have to design something, remember the responsive website? Yeah, responsive up to a certain point. Like those pop-up things, it's a labyrinth. Just make sure that the pages that are indexed by Google are not eaten, like half of the screen is not eaten up by a pop-up because you won't show up. You will be penalized. It started already. And there is one last thing I wanted to leave you with. It's fake news filters. They're working on filtering out bullshit content. It's not easy. They're not perfect at it, but they actually are moving in that direction. So this is good news in terms of what we are going to be consuming as humans, but it's not quite there yet. Just keep in mind, in the future, if somebody gets to you, you can, keep an eye on what they're doing. Go, hey, probably we're going to have this problem or that problem, or have you thought about this algorithm? Now that you know that they're heading with natural language processing and that they're dealing with machine learning, you can always say, hey, be careful, my code may not show up the way you expect it to. And that covers it. It's been a wild ride. Thank you for listening to me.